professional bail bond agents, and I sit on the board of directors for the Professional Bondsmen of the United States, our national organization. Yes, sir. We deal with that. It's all across the nation, even in the rural areas where I'm at in the center of the country. And you were very eloquent in outlining the problem. Lack of accountability, and that's the design of the movement that you're seeing. The, and I'm in a unique situation where I'm in court every day, and the bail bondsman holds the defendant accountable and makes sure that they show up for court. Uh, we don't judge them guilty or innocent, but we do hold them accountable to show up in court. So the victim and society does get their day in court and get satisfaction. So we're the one. We were one of the first parts of the criminal justice system that came under attack, and it was because that we held these people accountable. Um, we are looking at a direct and intentional allowing criminals to run rampant with no accountability or no accountability for their actions, if you want to call it that. But yes, you were exactly right. Correct. Oh, it's easy to make it a scapegoat. It because most people, even in the criminal justice system, and I work with attorneys and prosecutors and judges every day, and they don't understand what we do. So it's easy to misrepresent what we do. And the popular culture and the popular media, uh, we're kind of like the motorcyclists were, 20, 30 years ago. Anybody that rides a motorcycle must be a criminal. Well, that's not the way it is. So we get labeled that because it's easy. We're basically insurance agents, and we the only difference between an insurance agent and ourselves is we do have the authority to follow a defendant wherever they would go in the United States and take them into custody and bring them back. So that's what the attack was on. It's like all the other aspects of our um, nation right now in our society. Um, Anything that's morally right is being criticized, and it's being targeted, and all of the immoral uh, things that are going on are celebrated. But that's all a part of the focused destruction of our country. Well, that's been going on for about 160 years. Um, they they have always promised to do better and promised to take care of a certain segments of the population, and they have been able to convince them to vote for them, and then the very moment that they get elected and sworn into office, then they turn their backs on them. Um, there's for those of us like you and I who are moral and right thinking people, it's very difficult for us to understand the mentality of the politicians and the people that are doing that to certain segments of our citizens. Uh, I personally am appalled every time I hear a word referring to the color of somebody's skin or the texture or whatever. Um, it's it's the character of a person, and all the time I've been in law enforcement in the bail bond business, that's what it comes back to is the character. But for some reason, we have this segment of the political ruling class that thinks that they can use certain minor segments of the population as their own little pawns, and I think that's despicable. Well, we do. We have 75% Republicans in the state legislature. We have two Republican senators. Um, Based on a statement by our Senator Josh Hawley, who stated that crime was up 300% in St. Louis. I know it is in the other corner of the state where I'm at, Southwest Missouri. We see it every day. But we've been seeing for about 4 years now, we've been seeing the judges' hands have been tied. They have been given orders from the Missouri Supreme Court on rules that they have to follow, and it's been a thoroughly um, uh, be nice to the criminals philosophy. We just had, well, in April, we had a gentleman in Joplin, Missouri, who was causing a disturbance at the store. Three officers responded, and he shot all three of them, and two of them died. That particular gentleman was out on probation because the former judge that he had been under had ruled on two cases where he had assaulted law enforcement, and that judge had said that he did not feel like that this person was a threat to the community, and so he let him out on probation, and he came to Joplin, Missouri, shot three of our officers, killing two of them. Um, we have a 37-year-old male right here in the Joplin area who last month pled guilty to raping a 16-year-old and using alcohol and marijuana to do it. He pled guilty. He's going to get 120 days of treatment, and then he's going to be given probation, which, for those of you that don't know, when they're given probation, that means that they're back out on the street right alongside of you. So, now this girl has got to fear for her life, possibly. Uh, but there's no, there is no justice in the criminal justice system anymore. The criminal justice uh, programs that have been instilled in the last 5 years are nothing but destroy the criminal justice system. We don't follow the statutes. We have criminal statutes in every state, and those statutes are not followed. Those have criminal statute attached penalties to each one of them. And when you plead guilty, uh, there's a penalty that is attached and put there by the legislature. But the courts have seen it in their power to change what the legislature does and make their own rules. And the disappointing part is that the legislature, who has the power to fix that, refuses to. Even a Republican state like Missouri, 75% of the legislators are Republican, and yet they have done nothing to fix the problem. And they could in 2 days. I think in a large measure, you're correct. Our nation is run by bureaucrats. It's not run by the politicians anymore. The politicians go to Washington and they are told what to do. We have new representatives and new senators that go to Washington. Uh, and they get there and they are told what's expected of them and they are told what to do and they are enveloped in this web that's in Washington, D.C., and the bureaucratic nightmare that's Washington, D.C. And it's almost feasibly impossible to do what you should do when you go to Washington. We had we had a president that fought for 4 years to try to get rid of some of that web and the swamp, but we found out that it takes longer than just 4 years to dismantle the unethical and criminal um, web that is the swamp there. Um, and the whole country is being um, disoriented and just dismayed by the fact that the criminals, starting with the Clintons from and on up, can continue to commit federal crimes and not be held accountable. We've got people now that are demonstrating outside the homes of some uh, Supreme Court justices, and that is a direct violation of federal statutes. And our Attorney General is not doing a thing to stop it. So when the Attorney General of the United States fails to fulfill his duty on federal criminal violations, um, you are disheartening an entire nation because they can no longer trust their government. So we're in a really bad situation now. Um, it's a matter of uh, they want to come after all of the legal guns in the United States, but they don't understand that only criminals will still have guns. But they do understand that. They understand that very well. It's all about how can they control the population of a nation. The criminal justice system is just a part of that. Um, Anyone that's read history or anyone that is a historian or uh, reads anything about government can go back hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, and look at what is happening to us right now is the same thing that has happened over and over and over in history right before a totalitarian government, communist, socialist, whatever you want to call it, um, takes over. So we're living in those last days, so to speak. Um, but when your government won't follow the law, we're in trouble. So totalitarian, yeah, it's a hard one. It's a tongue twister. Right. Right. And it goes all the way back to your local government, not just federal and not just the state, but it comes clear down to the counties. Um, Working closely with representatives from across Missouri, I was surprised. I ran into some very liberal, progressive Democrats who ran on the Republican ticket because that's the only way they could win in their county. And so they're more than happy to uh, dis uh, to misrepresent their actual philosophy just for the sake of winning an election, so they can go um, to the state legislature and get done what they want to. They vote with the Democrats. Their philosophy is liberal, progressive, but they've got an R behind their name because in their county that's the only way they can win. Right. I I wish I had an answer for you. The the infiltration of our culture is so pervasive. Uh, my wife and I went to a movie yesterday at the theater. The movie was great, but all of the preview or pre advertising that you have to sit through was thoroughly uh, immoral and unethical, and it made you want to get up and leave before the movie ever started. But we've seen that for 20 to 30 years in the pop culture, and when the music comes out and it's all kill the police and F the police and and uh, all the other stuff that out there in the what they call popular music now, it desensitizes the nation. Things that things that are accepted now 20 years ago would never have been thought of um, to be allowed on the media, but we desensitize our population to the point to where they accept it. Who would ever have believed that a nation would stand for being told you have to wear a mask all the time? That was not a health situation. That was a strictly a desensitization of the American people, and a test to see if the government could lead us all around and we do everything that they told us. When you look into that pandemic and you find out what happened at the Center for Disease Control and all of the other governmental bureaucratic offices that had a hand in that, this was a serious flu. It was contagious. It was the flu, and it was bad. Mm-hmm. But the government found out that they could instruct us to do things, and we would follow like a bunch of sheep, and we had to, and it was a test, and they passed. They found out that they could make us do whatever they want to. So the insidious philosophies behind that were far more destructive than the disease.
I realized now, and also I realized too how much that the government can try to make people do things just based out of fear. It's it's as if you can say something, and as long as you make it believable, the people will go along with it, even if it meant giving up their rights to do so, which truly is un-American. The idea that we are a free citizens, and the fact that that the government really has no right to try to infringe on our rights, and the fact that people are actually willing to give that up just to I guess get in line, or just to try to make the government happy is an atrocity on its own. But it's definitely something that you pointed on, that you made a great point with, and that's the fact that America, which at one time was a Judeo-Christian country, is now departing away from that. And because of that, that's the reason why we have the problems that we have today, and this is the reason why the people are willing to just fall in line and join the fascist government that we have, just the same way as the people in China are doing, and in North Korea, and so forth. So this is so. I guess one last thing I want to ask is so being that we know that there are no representatives on our side, being the simple fact being the fact that there are no one trying to protect our rights to bear arms, being the simple fact that we have no protection really from the very criminals that they allow to come, to go in, for them to be arrested, stay in jail, only for them to come back out and terrorize the very communities that they have been terrorizing. Should we even think about being in America anymore?
Well, yes, we still live in the greatest nation in the world. We still have the best Constitution and the Bill of Rights of anywhere in the world. We are a republic. We are not a democracy. We are a republic where everyone has rights. And that 300-year record will live as an example far after you and I are gone. But I think there is hope. I see it every day. I see young people growing up and having to wade through the murk of public education, and they still come out and graduate, and they still have their head on straight, and they still know what's right and what's wrong, and they still want to do what's right. So I have not given up hope. I think the battle is a huge one, and I thank God every day for people like yourself who are willing to stand up, put it out there for the world to see that there is the right thing to do, and we're going to proclaim that. So I take my hat off to you. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
But I do believe that we're not gone yet. So I do have a lot of hope for this country.
Well, I want to, I want to believe too, as well, that there's still hope for this country, and the reason being is because we still have people, people like me, and people like yourself, along with other people who really believe in this country, and believe that this country under the Constitution is something worth fighting for, even if it means for us to just stand out and say something. Go down and call our representatives, and let the representatives know how we feel. I mean, even if it takes for us to even run for political office, and again, you're right. It really doesn't start in the federal and in the state. It really starts locally. Local, to take over. I mean, to try to take over local government, and try to make a difference there, and then eventually it will spread, and then it will spread to the much bigger governments as well. It takes for all of us to know that we are one nation. It takes for all of us to know that we are all Americans. This is one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And it's not just for some people; it's for all people.
Everyone.
For everyone. And once we have people that can instill God into our beliefs. I mean, once we could start instilling God into legislature, because keep in mind, this country was founded by Judeo-Christians. I mean, we are a Judeo-Christian country. Granted, this is a country where you can practice any religion that you want, but this country was founded with the belief of Christianity. And once we can get to that, then yes, we can make America great again, because America at one time was great. But just like you, I'm holding out too that it can be great again, because just like you, I'm also seeing people that are starting to see the light. But I think it's gonna take more. I mean, it's gonna really take a group of us to make a significant difference, and I believe the best way to do it, I believe, will be to run for office. I mean, I know I brought up, calling the representatives. I mean, I reside in New Jersey. The thing is, a lot of people here. I mean, a lot of our representatives you know, the vast majority of representatives here are Democrat, and it's like trying to even say anything to them. It's like talking to a brick wall. I think the best way to try to beat them will be to run against them.
Well,
And
go out there and tell everybody you run across, think for yourself. Think, don't let your neighbor next door or the guy down the street dictate to you how to vote. Think for yourself.
That's true.
When you start doing that, we're then we're in good shape.
True.
I'm 68 years old, and there have been three great men in my lifetime: Martin Luther King, Ronald Reagan, and Donald Trump. And Martin Luther King was absolutely right when he said, "Judge a person on their character." That's the only thing you can judge a person on, is their character. That's what we have. That's all we have in this life, is our character, our ability to do the right thing when nobody's looking. Ronald Reagan brought us out of a deep, deep hole and restored this country in the 80s. And we were, our race problems were nearly settled, and everything was fine in 2008. And now, and then it took a nosedive for 8 years. And we didn't think we could come out of that. And in stepped a guy named Donald Trump. And Donald Trump changed the Republican way of thinking for a generation. All of the people that were against him, the swamp, all of the Republicans that ran against him in the primary in 2016, all of the swamp people, he won. He beat them. The American people voted for him. And when he was done, he had changed the mindset of politicians everywhere. The progressive left, they hated him even more because he was right. It's like turning the light on when the cockroaches are out. They're going to scurry for the darkness. Well, that's what the Democrats did, and they hated him for it. But there's always someone out there, and it may be you, and it may be one of your kids or your grandkids that step up and become another great American like Donald Trump was. So we do have that hope and that to look forward to. But I'm not giving up. And like I said, thank you for standing up and fighting and taking the chances and all of the stones and arrows that come your way because of what you stand for.
Oh, trust me, I've gotten them. I've gotten them plenty.
Yeah.
I've gotten them from everywhere.
Right.
I always tell people that that if you really want to know who your true friends are, tell them that you're a Trump supporter.
Yep.
You'll find out who your real friends are
Courage
real quick.
Courage and character. It showed.
Yes. Amazing. Well, Larry, I thank you for coming out and having this discussion with me. I think my audience will take this and this should be an eye opener, to show what what America truly is all about, and how just being just not necessarily looking at your ethnicity, but looking at your nationality, looking at the fact, being proud of being an American, calling yourself an American, and wanting to do what's best for the country.
We're all Americans. That's
Right.
all we are. We're all
All Americans.
Americans. That's correct.
You know,
No hyphens.
nothing at all. I rather, people come to me and they say, well, why don't you call yourself, why don't you call yourself what it is, and African American or all this. I I'm proud to be an American. I love this country. This is the greatest country on the planet. There is no other country like America. There's no other country that I would rather want to be in. And and this country is worth fighting for.
Yes. Yes.
And and I'm going to continue to to speak on the matter. I'm going to continue to let people know that this country is worth fighting for, and I'm going to continue to raise awareness that you are American first before anything else, and that you should support this country and do what you can for America.
Right.
That is amazing. Thank you, thank you for coming out, Larry.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I enjoyed myself
yes,
very
yes,
much.
same here, and we will definitely keep in touch again. That's for sure.
That's great.
All
Look
right,
forward to it.
all right.
Have a great week.
You too, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.